Happy New Year! And what a better way to ring in the new year than to reminisce about the old one we have just left behind. And as always, I am going to do it by going through the few select movies that I managed to squeeze in into my year and watch in the cinemas, and going to talk about them in their degrees of awesomeness. As always, just because the movie in question is in this particular list doesn't make it a bad movie. It's just been pushed down by the virtue of a much better movie that shoved it down by being a better movie. Heh. Which unfortunately does not apply to Hellboy. I'm not quite sure if it was the accidental midnight screening that we went to for this film, but Hellboy has been the dullest piece of multimedia I have had the displeasure of being exposed to this year. It does nothing new. It rehashes old ideas, but doesn't do it nearly as good as the Del Toro films that predated, but what, like a decade and a half? And its push for the hard R rating turned out to be no more than an excuse to just be straight up disgusting for no other reason than just to be straight up disgusting. Which is a shame because David Harbour, I can't believe that's actually him under all that makeup, delivers a solid performance as this new sort of world-weary, jaded version of Hellboy. And speaking of makeup, the makeup on Hellboy looks amazing in this movie. Overall, Hellboy himself, Hellboy the character and Hellboy the movie, is literally the one and only good part of the movie because everything surrounding him is dull, ugly, disgusting, sweary, McSweary, too sweary too much, just because R, and brings nothing new to the table and just makes you miss the Del Toro films and makes you wonder why the hell did this not continue to be a sequel instead of a reboot for no other reason than to what? What? I can see no reason. Same as I can really see no reason to recommend this to anybody. If you love Hellboy, you are better off watching the first two films and then maybe go and read the comic because that's the best you'll do is to stay away from this piece of shit. Yeah. A few years back, the Mythbusters have proven that you can shine a turd. But no matter how much you shine a turd is still a turd, no matter how shiny it is. And that's what this movie is. A shiny turd. While you look at it, it's pretty and shiny, and then you want to touch it, and as soon as you touch it, you find out it's a turd, and then the recoil after just overrides any shininess that it ever had with you. And that's my experience with The Little Battle Angel. Watching it first time, it was pretty. The action was great. The characters were. The story was. And then I find out it's based on a manga from 20 or. No, not even. Like 30 years ago? And I go, ooh, okay. Well, I have questions because this movie sure as hell likes to leave you with questions. And after perusing the source material, there was that icky, turdy feeling to the movie that I could not shake. I watched it again, and yep, there it is. All the visuals, all the action couldn't hide just how much of a dumb, convoluted mess it was. Eh? So much so that I am doing a multi-part Duncan Elite-a-thon thing in between all of my busy life, which I'm hoping to finish at some point soon, which I will finish. Because unlike this movie, which likes to start things and then just break away and do whatever, because it has the attention span of a kitten chasing a butterfly, and also some ridiculous notions that it is a first of a series. That is this thing seriously thinks it's gonna get a sequel? Well, Let's just say When Pigs Fly. Ignoring everything past Terminator 2 and delegating it to effectively an alternate timeline, I think, was the cleverest thing that this movie did. Also, it turns out to be the only clever move this movie did. Because what we get here, despite the Terminator title, is a stock run-of-the-mill action film that tries literally not to be anything else of a stock run-of-the-mill action film, which is not a bad thing in and of itself. I mean, it's not Genesis. That is literally all I have to say about this movie. It's not Genesis. Okay? This is kind of like Terminator 3 done all over again, because, you know, we're right after Terminator 2, but we're not right after, we're like way in the future, so it's neither here nor there. But it's fun. It's okay. It's not amazing. It won't leave you all excited for the future of the franchise. It will just leave you entertained and will leave you wondering as to why they keep going. Because, you know, at this point, there's just nothing much else to really do except rehash old things. And if you're gonna do that, then just make it a proper reboot that completely wipes the slate clean and has a nice, clear road to follow. And other than that, you know, watch it if you will, don't if you don't. You're not missing out on too much if you don't. Strippers! Got your attention there. But the question is, past that, will Hustlers keep your attention? And I think the honest answer is it depends. It depends on purely your taste of movies. I can honestly say this movie is not for everyone. It will be, for me, I can see it as a very divisive film. I think it got mostly overly positive kind of reception, and I liked it. But as you can see, it's not particularly high on this list. If in fact it's actually pretty low. But that's not because, again, that's not because it's a bad film, but because there's so much better films out there, up there, further up on this list. But Hustlers is an interesting case where it's got you that little flashy hook, right? But then it sort of weaves you into an area where you didn't think you would go with a movie about strippers doing drugs. Wait, no, strippers making people do drugs. Yes, that. So, it's also a bit hard to talk about without spoiling too much, but I guess I'll try. So, it's one of those back and forth films where you start at a point, then you go back, then you go forward again, then you go back, and if you like that sort of thing, great. If you don't, also great. Point is, curb your expectations of what you think this is, come in with an open mind, and honestly give it a shot. Give it your attention, give it your ear, your eye, you know. Look and listen and think, because this movie kind of does try to make you think. It's also an interesting one where there are no particular heroes or villains. It's just people doing things that they felt they had to do at the time that they did them. It's an interesting gray area they try to sort of like settle into. So before this goes on any longer, check it out if you want, don't if you don't. It's okay if you like it, it's okay if you don't. It's the kind of film that is not for everyone, but for that specific group of people that would love this kind of film, it's the perfect thing to just put on an afternoon and just enjoy. It's cute. Not much really else to say about it. It just that Addams Family is a cute little kids film about Addams Family. That's really it. If you know Addams Family, you kind of know what to expect from this movie. Except I would say don't expect too much from this movie. It's fun. It's cute. It's more for the younger current generation than for the older my generation. So if you have a kid and you want to show them an Adams Family, don't want to freak them out too much to begin with, you just show them this to sort of ease them into it, and then smack them with the two live action ones from the 90s. But other than that, there's not much really going for Adams Family that other Adams Family things haven't done better. Not a mark against it so much as a mark down. So like from an A down to like a B minus sort of thing. So check it out. Actually, who am I kidding? Okay, if you love Adam's Family, you have already checked out. If you don't, you wouldn't have. If you don't know what Adam's Family is, give it a shot. But if you take one look at that poster and go, that's fair enough as well. Welcome to Jumanji again. Yeah. Again, the sequelitis fallacy of sorts applies here. That if you watch Jumanji, if you watch especially last Jumanji, then you know exactly what to expect from this one. If you don't, well, it's the body swap thing, but mix in video games into it, where a bunch of characters are sucked into a video game and they become these certain avatars in the video game, which gives them different skills and weaknesses, makes them look and sound different, but they're still the same people underneath all that. And so the fun of this movie, same as it was with the last one, is seeing actors like Dwayne Johnson and Jack Black and Karen Gillan and Kevin Hart acting pretty much silly and goofy the entire movie and having a blast with them doing it. Yeah, not much else to say except it was fun. It was fun. It was just as good as the last one, but it also was exactly the same as the last one. So I guess not so much a recommendation as much as a comment of if you liked the last one, you will like this one. If you didn't, this one is not gonna win you over. If you've never watched Jumanji before, don't worry, this does the whole video game sequel thing where it explains the video game mechanics to you again through different means, even though it kind of it kind of has to assume that you watched, but it also has to cater to the people who haven't. So it still does the whole explanation thing. So you're not going to be lost. You're not going to be confused. You might be a little put out by the fact that they are referencing things from before. But the thing is, this movie shifts its entire thing to a whole new location with a whole new set of challenges and supporting casts. So again, it's going to be like a whole brand new adventure, and you can go back and watch the first one and go, oh yeah, they're exactly the same. But yeah, watch it if you do, if you want. Don't if you don't. I will give it a tentative recommendation to check out at least once, and especially if you like the previous ones. Other than that, not much really else to say. And from one case of sequelitis to another one. Men in Black International is another Men in Black movie. And depending on your opinions about the Men in Black franchise, that can be either mark up or mark down for this film. If you've watched other Men in Black films and love them, you will like this one just fine. It's not as it's not as good as the other ones. I will give it that, but it is still an entertaining little fun action flick with some cool alien threat on a horizon with a mystery to solve. Adds a conspiracy into it just for good measure, and some pretty entertaining performances from the main cast. That being Liam Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson, returning again as a duo from Thor Ragnarok. I mean, watching the two of them together is the most fun you have in this movie. Not to say that everything around them is not fun, but it's sort of, again, it's more Men in Black, but not as good as the previous ones. Don't want to don't want to dunk on this movie too much. Check it out if you want. Don't if you don't. It's not going to surprise or shock you all that much, but it will make for an entertaining evening. Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here of hey, do you know this thing? Hey, do you like this thing? Hey, how would you like more of this thing? But probably not as good as you've seen, but still good. Yeah? And the pattern continues with Captain Marvel because Captain Marvel is it's not a sequel to anything, but it is a slave to its formula. That formula being the MCU formula. This movie is so by the numbers that you can practically predict it from beginning to end with just by seeing the poster. You go, stop me if you heard this one. There's a character, right, who doesn't know where they come from, right, who has these powers she doesn't know where she got them from, right, she's trying to figure out how they work, right, there's a mystery to solve, right, there's some bad guys to stop, right, there's some fun to be had, right, and there's a lesson to be learned, right, and in the end she's like, yeah, right. Yeah, that's Captain Marvel. Without giving the details, that's Captain Marvel, pretty much in the nutshell. It's literally all the elements of all the other movies, especially all the MCU movies you've seen before, but sort of reskinned in a way. Doesn't make it a bad movie though. I want to emphasize that. It is a formulaic movie, but if the formula is solid gold, then what is that to complain about when, you see that formula utilized over and over and over and over and over again? Okay, yeah, okay. So, Captain Marvel won't surprise you or shock you again. It will entertain again. It won't leave you particularly excited, I suppose. This was a prelude to Endgame, one of the most anticipated films of 2019, and this was and it was supposed to get you even more excited. But if anything, it got people going, why the fuck did I bother watching this? Why didn't I just wait for Endgame? It is only a couple of months. I could have held on. I got a backlog of amazing MCU movies I should probably rewatch again just to, refresh my memory. This was a complete waste of time. Yes, but it's an entertaining waste of time, and it's still a fun one to watch. This is a tricky part because, and this is kind of the reason it's tricky is because it's hard to say without spoiling anything, but I'll try. This movie becomes important later, as in post this movie is when you realize the importance of the things that this movie sets up. While you watch it, you go, okay, that's fun. That obviously is not gonna go anywhere. We got the biggest fucking cinematic event of this decade happening in a couple of months. But later you realize, okay, that was something there. So I'd say if you want to skip it and just rush to Endgame, that's just fine. Do it. You're not gonna miss out on too much. But do come back to it afterwards. Do come back to it. Do check it out. Do watch it because as a tiny puzzle piece of this mosaic that the MCU has been setting up, it does have its place in there. It's just that it's not something to rush towards. It's The Lion King. Seriously, do I have to explain The Lion King? If you watched The Lion King, you have already watched The Lion King. Right? No? Okay. Well, The Lion King 2019 is a practically one-for-one, shot-for-shot remake of The Lion King 1994. So when I say you have watched The Lion King, you really have watched The Lion King. Because watching this one, you will get a serious sense of deja vu. Going, I feel like I've watched this before, even though I haven't watched this movie at all. Because they reuse the exact same shots, they reuse the exact same scenarios, they reuse the exact same lines from the original film. But the thing is, in trying to, I don't know, elevate the material with the hyper realistic uh, visual aesthetic that they're going for, they have shot themselves in the foot pretty badly because the problem with real animals is their real animal faces. That being the lack of the real expressions on their faces. Yeah, and with that lack of expression, you are left to the tone and the pitch and the delivery of the voice lines to gauge how the characters feel and how the characters are reacting to a particular situation. I mean, yes, again, you if you watch The Lion King, the original, then you know exactly what they know and feel. But if this is your first Lion King, you go, that lion looks like it's sad or sleepy. I can't tell which. I'm trying to listen, but the delivery is so flat across the board that it just makes it just a hassle more than anything else. So you just lean back and go, okay, let's see how this plays out. Ah, so he was feeling sad. Okay, cool. I think so. I mean, yeah, okay. I would be doing this movie a disservice without mentioning absolutely amazing visuals. I mean, this movie has blown little everything that has come out in 2019 out of the water with just the technological prowess that it's showing in what it's generating on the screen. It's amazing, it's mind-boggling, it's mind-blowing, and all of that. But again, visuals aren't everything. You know, telling a cohesive story is part of it, which it does because it lifts the story one for one from the original. But okay, character interactions are a good one, which here is so tone deaf because you are practically guessing half the time what characters mean or feel. So it's I'm gonna say something I've said I think about the Beauty and the Beast remake. I'm okay with this being this generation's Lion King, but if you have a chance to check out the original, do so because it is so much better. It is still one of the best animated films of its time, of all time. And after watching that, you come back to this one and you see just how practically lifeless everything is in comparison. Toy Story 4 is unfortunately saddled with the markers of a sequel nobody asked for and a sequel that really will have a hard time justifying its existence. Which is unfortunate because it is an amazing animated film. Pixar continues its quest for delivering quality material, and this is no exception. Yes, there are some hiccups with the fact of how long it has been since the last Toy Story, with how little there was need for another Toy Story, and with the fact that in its laser focus on particular couple of characters, it sort of doesn't just shove other characters in the background, it literally shoves them to the background. It sort of acts like a bunch of other characters don't exist for most of the movie, and when they do come back for the obligated cameo, you go, oh, they're gone again. And with the characters that it does focus on, it seems to have hit a little bit of a soft reset on their traits and personalities, which can feel pretty jarring for people who have grown up with these characters through the last three movies and are expecting them to evolve, to advance, not to devolve and recede. You know, it's one of the few little markdowns for the film, alongside of probably a little muddling of its message, I guess, which is about I think which has been probably the same as pretty much all the other three movies about belonging, where you belong, what your role in life is, where your place in life is, sort of thing. And it continues that, and it sort of seems to go in one way, but then switch to another, but then switch to another again. Yeah, but okay. Beyond that, it is a really fun, entertaining film that both adults and kids can enjoy it. It's a whole family sort of film. It looks amazing. The advancements, again, it's funny to come back and watch from the original ones and see the advancements in the technology that renders these. And the advancements here are just woof. Really, that's all I can really say. I mean, without sounding too repetitive, they are some scenes are absolutely gorgeous. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. The character models retain the style, but the renders of them are so much better. It's so modern, you know. It's really nice. And yeah, it's a movie that will entertain. It's a movie that you will remember. It's a movie that you will inadvertently compare, you know, unavoidably you will compare to the other films and go, but how does it stack up? And there will be things holding it back because of its legacy that it sort of has to respect and kind of, you know, uphold. But it is totally worth checking out. It is. I do recommend it. Watch it. Watch the other ones if you haven't. Funnily enough, it is so far removed from the other ones, you don't particularly have to watch the other ones to watch this. I mean, it will fill some blanks, I suppose, but it won't leave you too confused. So you can easily watch this one to check it out to see what everyone's talking about, and then come back to the original ones and fill those little blanks afterwards. You know, but do check it out. It is totally worth it. Enjoy. Oof. These first parts of these yearly roundups for me are the hardest to do because I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, and a lot of the criticisms I have for the movies that end up down here seem to be pretty similar. But here it's practically deja vu from one to the other. It's all the stuff you've seen before, but not as good as you've seen before. Yeah, and unfortunately, and again, it doesn't make most of these movies. It doesn't make them bad. It just makes them not as good as other ones, which in some people's minds immediately does make them bad. In my mind, some of these are worth checking out at least once. Others, not so much. But it is entirely up to you. These are my opinions, and it's always hard to come up with those opinions when it's movies that I don't particularly care for, or movies which are not exciting for me, not as exciting for me to talk about as the ones that I know will follow, and you know I'll have so much more fun to talk about those because there's so much more to talk about. But this part is over, thank God. Happy New Year again. I hope your new one now will treat you better than the last one. And let's see what the next part brings. Ta ta!